I'm Emma Mitchell. I'm an energy healing guide, and today I want to tell you 3 more stories about some recent house clearings and a Reiki session that I did. So, I am a psychic medium and energy healer, and I really tap into some high-level skills that allow me to clear people's homes. And lately I've been doing a lot of these clearings remotely. So I somehow am able to put myself in somebody's home and work with angels and archangels and Jesus and others to help me to clear these spaces out. So actually all of the ones I'm going to tell you about today are long distance clearings. So the first one I want to tell you about is somebody that reached out to me a couple weeks ago, and she was telling me that she has this family cabin that has always felt really dark to her, and it was her grandfather's. He built it, but then he had some mental health issues and he ended up passing away in the cabin. When she said now, they still use the cabin, her family members use it, and it's just always felt dark and pretty bad energetically. So she reached out to me to clear the space, and this was actually several states away from where I live. So when I looked into it and when I was able to clear it, I saw this frightening black looming figure. It was like almost like this, and it was as tall as the ceiling in the space. I was able to clear that out with the help of some high-level angels and beings. And what I found out about this was that it has been there with the land for a very long time, like hundreds and hundreds of years, if not more. The information I also got from Spirit was that this being on the land, Native Americans who would walk past, or they wouldn't even walk past it, they would go the long way to get around because they knew it was there on the land. Unfortunately, it felt like maybe her grandfather was drawn to this because of some other things going on with him, and it possibly took over his mental health because of just how dark it was in that space. And it was just pretty interesting, but also a little creepy because it was so looming over and creating this darkness. There was also what I found to be very interesting. Her grandfather, who has since passed on, came to me immediately and said, "Hey, I want to tell you about this home." And he gave me a little bit of information. He gave me some information about the thing that had been there. And I was able to finally help him move on. I was able to get that thing out of the space and then help him move on to, go up with angels. So it was a really peaceful and beautiful process at the end. The in-between wasn't so peaceful, but it really made me feel good to be able to help him move on, because it felt like he was kind of stuck there until that space was cleared. So the second one I want to tell you about is my good friend Christy. I've cleared her home a few times now, but she was having some issues with hearing some noises. Her son was hearing footsteps and feeling like he was seeing something. And just in general, they were not very peaceful upstairs. She recently had a baby, and we just want her home to feel comfortable and nice, and for the family, for her son, her stepson, and for her baby. So she had me look into what was in her home, and I found a couple really interesting things. So first of all, there were several spirits in her downstairs area. They think they just really liked to gather there. And what I saw was they were very excited that there was a new baby in the house. So it was like a gathering of people just like, oh yay, this is really cool. I did help them move out and move on because spirits just bring down the vibration of the space to begin with, and they weren't her relatives or anything, so it was kind of weird. But upstairs, what was really interesting was she had this painting in the corner near her baby's room, and I was trying to clear it. I could not clear this painting, and why I was trying to clear it was there was this entity, and it looked gray, not necessarily negative, or malicious, but very much a parasite. And by that I mean it was causing mischief. And I saw it like trying to pull up carpet in the hallway, trying to like just do things. I saw nails coming up and different things that he was like creeping around. So I told my friend, hey, I can't clear this, and sometimes I can't, but the lucky thing is if it's an object, we can move it out of the space. So I directed her to her protest to move the painting out of the space and into her garage. And I saw that gray entity moving with her and going into the garage with that painting. For some reason, it really liked it. The information I got was actually this thing had come in on somebody else. So somebody else had been in her home and it was like latched onto her or was just following this person around. And when she came into the home, this gray thing was, looking around, and apparently it really liked this painting and latched itself onto that and didn't want to leave her house. She also had told me that they had had several nails coming up in their hallway in random places that had never happened. She's owned this home for years, and all of a sudden these nails started coming up. So that was really interesting as well. One time the nail has come up since, but that's it. They haven't had this issue anymore. But my friend has told me since that, they've felt a lot better in the home, and she's even noticed since they took that painting down that the space itself feels lighter and just better in general. It's really interesting. So the final story I want to tell you about is for somebody's house that she was having a lot of people coming through because they were trying to sell their house. And well, it's a townhouse, but she had me look into it a couple months ago, and I said, you don't need a house clearing. I'll teach you how to, clear the walls of your space so that you can clear that heavy energy off of people walking in, but you don't need a house clearing. You only have one spirit in there, and it's a lady on the bed, like combing her hair or something. She's happy and, a positive force in your home. So don't do it. We don't need to do it. Then several weeks later, she messaged me and she said, hey, I really need you to look into my home again. I think there's something there. I really don't feel at peace being at home. I just want to be out of the home. It just feels really bad in that space. So she was able to pinpoint they had had stagers come in and put some different, props and furniture into the home to sell, to be able to sell that space better. And she said, as soon as that happened, I just did not want to be home. She thought it was something attached to a piece of furniture. Well, when I looked in, I saw this very interesting spirit. It was this black entity thing that was very chatty and really was like wanting to be everybody's friend and was like, would not stop trying to get near me and was like, blah, blah, talking at me, and was very obnoxious. The word I got for this was a Kelpie. This is like a Scottish mystical creature that comes out of the water, and it coerces its victims into going into the water with them, like it pretends to be something else. And that was the word I got. I'm not entirely sure if that's what this entity was, but that's kind of what it reminded me of. So when I did clear her home, it was an interesting situation because this thing did not want to leave. And unfortunately, it was so sticky, and I don't know how to describe it. It was like this dark energy, and it touched my shoulder as I was like remotely in this home, and it would not come off. Usually if something gets on me, like a dark energy, I'm able to pull it off, but this would not come off. It was like sticky tar, and I was trying, and I worked with angels and guides to finally, remove layers of, soul skin or something off of my body because it just would not come off. I was finally able to get it out of the space, but definitely had to work with angels and higher level beings to help me with this because it would not leave. And finally, when we did get it to leave, it was very angry. It was yelling, it, exploded with power. And so it was a very interesting situation, but did end up getting it out of there. Did actually end up finding a couple more spirits in the home too that I'm imagining latched on to somebody else that had entered the home when they were looking at it, for the possibility to buy. But they looked around, or I looked around, and there were a couple more spirits that I was able to help move on. The message I got was this nasty thing latched itself onto one of the people who staged her home. I don't know where it came from, but it decided to stay, and was just causing things to not feel good in the space. Afterwards, the homeowner told me that she felt so much better in her home again, wanted to be there. And the coolest thing, and I can't totally attribute this to the house clearing, but they were able to get under contract within like a few days of doing that house clearing. So that was really cool. That was good information. And I've heard that actually before for other house clearings I've done, that people have been able to rent their homes easier or sell. So the last thing about this story is that I was intentional to clear her energy and her husband's energy, because I knew that that thing had touched me, and I knew that had gotten some nasty energy on them too, and I saw it on her, so I was able to in person clear her energy off and her husband's, so that it wouldn't be, causing them any other issues. And she was having some issues in her shoulder because of that, I assume. She also has, neck and back pain anyway, but I think it was more intense because of that. Luckily, they live in town, but I did do this of a long distance clearing, was able to do the Reiki in person. So that concludes my stories about house clearings today. I have several more, really, really weird stories, and I'll continue to share them with you as time goes on. The last thing I want to tell you about is a couple of recent Reiki sessions that all kind of go together in a way. So lately I've been helping people remove emotions and energies that are stuck in their legs, in their back, in their necks, in their shoulders. And they're all related to old emotional traumas, old emotional feelings. So one person I worked with just this week, I was able to help her to remove a lot of stuff in her hips and in her legs that have been causing her knee pain and some other just general pain she's had for a while. So what I was able to find, or help her to find, was certain situations that were tied to emotions like blame, shame, guilt, even some other traumas from her childhood, and she was able to remove them. We worked together to let those go, and she felt it. She knew that these emotions released and were gone. Afterwards, she told me she's running better, she feels better, she slept really well, and in general just feels lighter in her body. Somebody else I worked with recently had a running injury, and she had a bunch of neck or hip and leg pain as well. So we did the same technique to release a bunch of this stuff, and she found so much stuff from her childhood, from her parents, even from other running incidents, that she was able to release with me as we were working on the table. Also, someone else that I worked with, she had a bunch of stuff in her back and in her hips. She said she's had it for like a decade. It's been there for a very long time. There was a lot of guilt, shame, blame, and some other interesting things related to a divorce and relating to her parents' divorce when she was young. So afterwards, she felt really good too, and was surprised that she's done massage, she's done physical therapy, she's done so many things, and it was all emotional. So if you have any interest in learning more about these Reiki techniques, or you are concerned about something in your home, send me a message. The process is easy. We'll connect, we'll talk a little bit about what's going on, and I'll give you more information about what I see in your body or what I see in your home. Have a great rest of your day.